Well, look who's back, my man, Big P, Percy Crawford from the VIP Crew YouTube channel. Percy, it's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, man, you can add VIP Crew YouTube channel and website,
And website.
www.therealvipcrew.com. Just launched it earlier this week, so just working out the kinks and doing that, but the site looks amazing. My boy Vivek did a great job with that.
Oh, cool. And I've been keeping up with you there on YouTube, and it's a wide variety of stuff. It's not just boxing. It's a wide variety you have there.
Yeah, man, I actually have a guy from which rest in peace. They actually lost a member today, but the Stone City Band, which is Rick James's original band. I interviewed Nate Guido Hughes. They lost a member today, like I said, so rest in peace to him. But the Nate Hughes interview is doing really well. Obviously, I'm always be involved in boxing, and somehow I got the Gary Antoine Russell interview coming up very soon. Interview this guy from New Orleans, Bless Harris. Played at TCU. He's going to be in the NFL draft. So, like you say, man, just keeping it diverse, keeping it open-minded.
You know, it's always good to keep your options open, because when you have lulls in boxing and stuff, you got to keep your stuff out there. And I think it's important that you have your voice out there as much as you can.
No, man, I love the fact that you kind of pivoted and did the same thing with, some of the character stories and things like that. With combat sports, it's ebbs and flows. So it is. It's interesting and keeps me on my toes, keep me sharp, because even with the UFC, they seem to have a lot of shows, but some of them are, I don't want to say not talk worthy, but they're just kind of regular shows. So, man, why not?
Yeah.
Spread your wings.
Yeah. Well, since last we talked, we've been actually talking about it, I'll say, for a little bit. I think I'd said to you that I thought Dana would somehow get involved in boxing. I'd heard he was going to. Since we've last talked, he has gotten into it. The TKO League. He didn't. That's not his. Said that's not going to be the name of it, but they don't even have a name yet for it. But he's now involved in boxing with Turki Al-Sheikh. Good move, bad move, or what is your overall opinion on it? Because I got something else I want to hit on with you with that.
Well, before I give my overall opinion, I'll give the opinion of the people I have talked to, who's in the know and involved in the sport. Has been involved in the sport. They hate it. I mean, no other way to say it. They don't want any kind of amendment or anything to the Ali Act, which is something that seems like they're trying to lean towards doing. They kind of don't want the same issues that the UFC has had with fighter pay issues, and I guess you could say one guy being a control guy as a Dana White. So the pushback, the opinions I've got have been a lot of pushback. A lot of people not fans of it. Personally, for me, I don't know how long it works, so I guess I'll let it play out a little more. Does Dana White really have the time to invest a lot of time, because it's going to take a long time to kind of get it off the ground into boxing? I could see him doing this for a little bit and saying thanks, but no thanks. He'll come out saying, he sees why boxing's in the positions it's been in. And I just see it playing out more like that than him actually being involved in boxing for years to come.
Well, it's funny you brought this up. I got a little bit of blowback on those two points you made. I know there's people involved, because the people that I've talked to also, a lot of people don't like it. However, here's what the point I want to make, and see if you agree with me. So I knew the second the trainers and the promoters and some of the fighters started saying, well, the Ali Act really doesn't protect us, I knew right then the Ali Act is going to be repealed, because if it was so good, they would be fighting tooth and nail for it. So I don't know what exactly what's to be amended in there. I don't know. Obviously, I think it's the promoter-manager conflict. I think that's the one thing that they want to kind of nix to get that out of the way, because then you can have a similar scenario that UFC has. But that being said, with boxing being so unbelievably corrupt and just, it doesn't make a difference whether you're on one side or Top Rank or Don King Promotions, whatever. There's always something. There's just always some crap going on. My only thing would be this. You said about the fighter pay. I own a business, so I'm thinking it as a business itself. Now, if you take the fighters that fight the 4 and 8 round fights, they're making like $600, $700. And the guys at the top, perfect example, Terrence Crawford.
Mhm.
Making the amount of money he made fighting in LA, that was Turkey Al Sheikh's fault. He put the fight on in there. They lost tens of millions of dollars. There is not a promoter in the world that is going to put that on. So the salaries do have to come down. The UFC has it kind of, yes, at the very top, you're making big money. But even the regular guys that come in fighting the 3-rounders, the curtain jerkers, they're getting 15 grand, 14 grand. It's like 14 grand to win, 14 grand to show. That's not such a bad concept. I think the fighters have to understand they're overvaluing themselves, not giving access to media, not putting themselves out there. That hurts them as opposed to the boxing itself. They have to put the effort in too. Those days of $25 million to show up and fight, they're gone. Those with piracy and everything, they're gone. What do you think as far as, I know you said the UFC pay scale was something that you looked at that people don't like, but are they looking at it as far as the fighters? Or are they looking at it and as far as the business and it being healthy as a whole?
I think from the people I talk to, it's the one person dictating everything. So what the Ali Act does, one of the things it does is it makes promoters open their books to what's being made.
Right.
So if you have one guy, and the one guy being Dana White, who obviously comes with a reputation for being the, if you don't like it, leave kind of guy. Boxing doesn't want that in there. Boxing doesn't want to be fixed. I think we got to start there. Boxing's never wanted to be fixed. There's not one person who can come in and fix it. It's not Turkey. It's not Dana. You name the person. It's just not going to happen. It's boxing has been a sport where you put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound for 200 years. I mean, it just is what it is. I think the discrepancy from the people I talk to, it's like, and even if it's not Dana, because we know at one point it was maybe the Fertittas, but Dana was the face guy. Dana looks to be the guy saying, go test your market then and see how much you're worth. And for whatever reason, boxing doesn't want a guy to come in and dictate like that. Boxing doesn't want a guy to come in and say, you're not worth what you think you're worth. So just from that angle, I've gotten a lot of, oh God, Dana's gonna make it, look at Francis Ngannou. And even though we don't know the ins and outs of that story, it looks like you pretty much told the best heavyweight in the world, or one of them, go F yourself.
Right, but he did make a ton of money, and Ngannou did go out, and that's one of the rare ones. I mean, he made a ton of money for betting on himself. He left the UFC a winner, went out, tested the market, got his money, and that was one of the best moves, I think. That's one of the best business moves for a fighter.
People can leave a one combat discipline like MMA and come to boxing, and your first 2 fights are Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It just usually doesn't work like that. So it goes to what you alluded to earlier, though, putting himself out there. Francis was on a lot of media runs leading up to leaving the UFC. He was very active and visible, and it paid off for him because we still haven't gotten Wilder Joshua. We still haven't got Fury Joshua, and he goes into boxing 0-0 and fights Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It doesn't get much better than that.
And the people that you've been talking to, you being in the know there, do they feel that their value is going to now go a lot less? Is that what their feel is?
I think, and the people I've mainly talked to are people that's been around the sport. They're not necessarily fighters, but I think what they're looking at it from is, what if another Reebok type deal come up where we see these guys with only fans on their trunks and this, that, and the other? Well, what if Dana White comes in and say, hey, we got a deal with Adidas. You can only wear this, sell your own merch. And then we're going to have the same complaint that a lot of MMA guys had. A lot of MMA guys used to tell me my sponsorship money was twice what my purse was. Well, when the Reebok deal came in, that went out the window. What would prevent that from happening? And it's just, that's part of the conflict that I've heard. I don't want to say the person's name because they're very vocal, but I don't know if they would want me to put it out. But their father is a very prominent person in combat sports, and they just see it as a complete conflict.
Well, that's interesting. I guess we're going to be in a wait and see mode for a little bit, because even though Dana White is involved, Turkey Al-Sheikh's the big dog. He's the big lion in this one. He could throw a lot of money at, but at what point does Turkey Al-Sheikh say enough's enough? This got to be a business, or even if he gets tired of the new toy syndrome and look at Live Golf. It's supposed to be the new thing.
I think the new toy syndrome is going to be more of his exit strategy. I think Turkey's a fan of boxing. I think he's passionate about boxing, but I think Turkey could get bored very quickly. And once he gets bored with this thing, I think he moves on to something else. In terms of, I just think if you come in with the idea that anyone is going to come in and fix boxing, you're already starting behind the 8 ball because it's not possible. So if you're looking at Dana White as a savior, or if you're looking at Dana White as a guy that's going to come in and shake things up, I just don't think that's it. He can come in and do some good things or even great things. But a lot of people I hear, they think like boxing's going to have this overhaul. And, man, I've seen it. I mean, you've been around, GZ. I've heard it all. I've read that book so many times. It just doesn't work like that.
No, and you have so many different personalities in boxing. It's you even at the amateur shows. It's like, oh boy, there's a lot of stuff going on. Just a lot of nonsense.
Yes.
Well, we're going to have a fight coming up here. Speaking of Turkey Al-Sheikh, we're on May 2nd here at Times Square, free to go. I mean, there's only 300 seats there, VIP seats that are there. He's rented out the entire Times Square billboard space and putting on a show there. It's a hell of a way to have a splash in New York City to do that, putting on just 3 fights, good fights. But I'm going to tell you the first one out of the gate that I noticed, the Devin Haney fight against Jose Ramirez. I never like when you have put the cart before the horse, because they've already planned on this Garcia fight down the road. I'm not saying Ramirez could pull the upset off, but that's a tougher fight than I think of the 3. Oh, no, I take that back. Out of the 2 between Garcia and Haney, that's a tougher fight to win for Haney. Is this a trap fight here for Devin Haney?
First and foremost, you're absolutely right. This is one of the most innovative things I've seen since bringing, Ali and Foreman to Zaire. Very innovative. I still got to see it work, GZ. I don't know. I
don't know how it's going to work.
It's real time to believe it's actually going to happen. Like, this is insane to be able to put a fight on in the middle of Times Square. So that's one thing. Devin Haney looks shredded. He looks amazing. I did find out it's at a catch weight, I believe, of 146 or 44, something like that. But he looks absolutely shredded. I think being in the middle of Ramadan helped him because he's been fasting. Put up a picture. Physically, he looks great. This is definitely the tougher fight between Rolly Ryan and him and Ramirez. But, I mean, depending on how you look at Tio Barbosa, this may be the most 50-50 fight on the card that Devin's in. I know Ramirez has slowed down a little bit from the high-volume guy he used to be. But he's still a punching machine, and that could be an issue with a guy coming off of multiple knockdowns, coming off a fight where, he didn't look as sturdy as he got hurt in the first 20 seconds of the fight. Ramirez is still a guy that can apply that kind of pressure, even though I don't know if he's cracking like that at these higher weight classes. But we'll have to see how Devin's body, chin, and all that good stuff holds up. I think Ryan got a cakewalk, if I'm being honest. So I definitely think that's the tough of the 2.
I think Ryan's, and we'll switch to that fight quickly. But back to the Devin Haney fight real quickly. Are you still leaning towards Devin Haney in this fight?
Yeah, I'm picking Devin Haney for all the reasons I just said. I don't know if the higher weight classes will serve Jose Ramirez well. I've seen his output slow down a little bit. So moving up in weight usually doesn't increase that. Being able to take the punches. Devin's a big boy. Devin probably should have been up in the 44, 47, whatever, if you consider catch weights. He probably should have been here. So I think we'll see a stronger version of him. Devin has one of the best jabs in boxing to me. If he uses that, boxing smart, stays out of harm's way, at least early, I can see him easily outboxing Ramirez. I just don't know how much he's going to be willing to engage in a firefight. So that's going to be the dark horse for me.
Yeah, I think if Haney stays where he was prior to the Ryan Garcia fight, I think he does well and looks good. I'm not calling him a knockout. I don't think it'll be a knockout, but I think he has to get back on the horse here to look good, because coming down the road before we get to the second fight, Ryan Garcia is going to be his next opponent in September. They're setting this up to be a spectacular knockout for Ryan Garcia, I think, by putting him in there with Rolly Romero, has been knocked out and knocked down multiple times in his last couple fights. Rolly hasn't been selling this fight as much as he used to, so I think the card is really pending on Ryan Garcia. That's saying something since his last outing, but not as much buzz on this end as I've heard from Ryan Garcia either. Good, bad, I don't know. This fight here, when I called it a trap fight for Devin Haney, this is one of those fights for Ryan Garcia that they're going to set him up to look spectacular. And I'm going to tell you where I'm going to go with this. So, do you feel, as I do, Ryan Garcia walks through this guy here next week?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's say he walks through him. Let's say Tio or Barbosa looks phenomenal. Haney looks average. Do you switch that and have the winner of Tio and Barbosa take on Ryan Garcia?
I would. I don't think Turkey would. Turkey's looking at dollar signs. And given the hostility, given everything involved with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, the miss weight, failed drug test, the whole lawsuit thing, I think you cash in on this fight while you can. If Devin can eke by a victory or win a split decision, it's a W in the column. I think you jump on that anyways. I guess it's a gift and a curse that Devin has the tougher fight. Given he has the tougher fight, I don't think he necessarily has to wow us to get the Ryan Garcia rematch. It's already set in stone. He just got to get a W next to his name. I hate to say this, Rolly's starting to come off to me, like you just mentioned, since he's not really big promoting this, as a guy that's showing up for a check. I think he's flipping into opponent mode, and that can end badly for him because when Ryan is on his game, is probably one of the most talented fighters in boxing. He has one of the prettiest left hooks I've ever seen. A focused Ryan Garcia can be very dangerous. If Rolly comes in anything but, it's going to be a short, tough night for him. And it just feels very opponent-ish to me, and that's not good.
I thought the same thing. I thought he just looks like he's a beaten fighter, someone who's taken a lot of beatings. Even the ones that he had won, he got hit, he got dropped, let alone the tank fight. But even in sparring, I'm seeing clips of him getting absolutely pummeled, getting his brakes beat off. I'm like, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's a good thing for his trainer to keep him in there. And
I can't remember the guy's name he fought, but if you think about the fight he had after Pitbull Cruz, for him to get a victory, he had to be so safe. It lets me know he's a guy that gets hurt a lot in sparring. He's a guy that doesn't like what he feels in fights. I mean, he basically stayed away for 10 rounds, 12 rounds, however long the fight was, just to get a win on the card. So that's not conducive to what betted success for him. He's come in as the raw power guy, kind of the natural energy guy. I don't see any of that. That's all zapped out of him, and honestly, it's been beaten out of him.
I think so. Now, let's turn our attention to what I think is the 50-50 fight of the night, Arnold Barbosa and Teofimo Lopez. This fight, man, I don't know where to lean on this one. I initially, and we've spoken about this a bunch of times, initially about 2 years ago, I thought Teo was the most talented guy in the division. I thought he was a guy who was ascending to be superstar status, maybe earlier than that, maybe probably 4 years ago. I thought that. They had a couple bad outings in a row. Now all of a sudden Barbosa here is coming on. He is a big guy. He's a strong guy, not scared, not backing down off of Teo. Teo has a different outlook to me. There is something either off with him or he's not as confident as he is. This fight is 50-50 all the way. What are your thoughts on that one?
So I hate that Teofimo Lopez has turned into this guy for me because, much like you said, I remember Teo fought in New Orleans on the undercard of a Regis Prograde card. I'm like, this kid is it. I had a buddy of mine say that kid's Roy Jones. And now I've delegated to saying it depends on what Teofimo Lopez shows up. I have to say that before every fight. And I hate that because he was that guy at one point. It depends on what Teofimo Lopez shows up. I think if the supernaturally gifted boxer, athletic, I mean, I've seen this kid do backflips off of 1 foot. I know a lot of people don't understand what rhythm is in boxing, but if you see Teofimo Lopez dance, he has rhythm and he has it all when he uses it all. I don't know, man. Much like you just say, GZ, something's off. I don't know if he kind of admitted to doing a lot of trolling. I don't like my world class fighters being trolls. You know, be
Right.
who you are, represent yourself, the sport, however you want to do that. I don't mind a little chaos, but when people roll up on him, he likes, oh, I'm promoting fights, I'm trolling. Look, Kobe Covington like to me. I'm not a fan of that. So hopefully he can find himself because Barbosa is a big guy for the weight class. He is a guy that can bring a lot of pressure. I still see Tio outboxing him. I just think he's too athletic.
Really?
Depends on what Teofimo Lopez shows up. I have to say that.
I am dead fast against this fight for Tio. I think it's a bad fight for him. I think his dad is not the guy in the corner that he should be for him. I think there is something going on. I think there's a lot of personal issues going on that I've heard about. There is something there. I don't know what it is. I think the size. Not only that, I saw Barbosa roll up on him and his dad at the casino. He did not want any part of that. And Barbosa was like, hey, we can do this next fight or whatever fight. I think he's kind of forced into this fight, Tio, because of the money situation. There's a lot of stuff here, and it's sad because I remember one of our first conversations we had was about how good Teofimo Lopez was. And he could be that star. Then it was the Jermaine Ortiz. And sometimes he fights up to the competition. But there's times where, man, does he just shit the bed?
I was gonna actually ask you that, GZ, because the narrative I see around Tio a lot is, and I don't know if I fully bought into it, he fights down to his level of opposition. I'll give you that one time. It seems to be something that rears its ugly head to the point where you can't say he's not fighting down to the level of his opposition. This may be who he's turning into. Do you buy that Tio just gets in his trap of fighting down?
I mean, from what he's giving us, I think we have to believe what we see at this point, because you can't tell me that a guy who's got millions of dollars waiting for him out there, and I mean millions, between Shakur, Haney, Garcia, there's millions of dollars, Tank, of him sitting out there, and he's going to fight like that against Jermaine Ortiz. He's going to fight like this, fight against people who shouldn't be in the ring with him. No way. I think this is kind of the descending, but I think it has a lot to do with the chaos outside of the ring. Believe me, I see his dad on some of these things, and I don't know what's going on. He's training with Eddie Reynoso, then he's not training with Eddie Reynoso, then he's training with Garcia, then he's not training. There's so much crap that's flying around. Eventually, at that level, it catches up with you. How many sleepless nights can you have at that fighting at that level?
I think he lacked accountability for a very long time. I think that's what Tio's problem. Well, some of his problems, like you said, outside cast doesn't help. But a lot of his problems starts and ends with accountability. When he lost to Kambosos fight, he said, this is what happens because they forced me to stay at 35. Who? Like, just, he never takes accountability for anything. He has a lackluster performance and, you know, he was sick and this, that. Teofimo Lopez's biggest issue is accountability, and he has a ton of distractions. Those two things are detrimental to any fighter.
And just especially a good-looking young fighter. It always seems to be that combination. You know, there isn't, you know, men are as faithful as their options, you know, and if they're out there at the party, at the club, it's just a lot of crap that could happen, and it could go wrong really fast. Woman comes in the picture, half your money's gone. There's just a lot of shit there. I think my opinion on this card, I don't know who you're picking. I'm leaning towards Barbosa. I think he might stop him. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
I mean, the Sandor Martin controversial decision doesn't look as bad. I think people finally took heed to who Sandor Martin is. The Kambosos loss looks atrocious right now. Jermaine Ortiz is like, he's had some decent fights with Lomo and Jamel Herring and guys like that. So I guess I'm still, call me crazy, giving Teofimo Lopez somewhat of the benefit of the doubt. I do think his last spectacular performance is a very faded Josh Taylor. So I don't give him as much credit. I think Josh Taylor hung around those lower weight classes too long.
But that was a tough fight for him. He was beat up in that fight. He didn't come out unscathed.
GZ, I'm telling you, he's the guy who always have to preface it depends on what Tio shows up. what I saw with my own eyes, I just can't forget it. But I also can't forget this shit that we've been seeing lately. So I hope the Teofimo I saw in New Orleans show up and he can rewind the clock. I'm having a hard time with it, man. Something you said, everyone rolls up on him and his dad. Everyone. Reporters. Like I've seen reporters roll up. It's like, goodness gracious. They got to get it together, man, because his personal life from the failed marriage and it's spurning into his boxing career, and I don't see it ending well if it keeps going this way.
Let me ask you, have you ever seen a successful father-son tandem on the elite level?
I've always said this, G. I think that we've seen successful father-son tandems. I think the issue is not knowing when your father's taught you everything either he knows or everything he can teach you. I think Shane and Jack Mosley was a great duo.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where Jack's shown you all he knows. Like, you got to move on. I thought Yoel Judah and Zab Judah had a great run. But if you notice, they always they outwear the welcome because it's so tough to fire your father. And that's the problem with father-son duos. It's not so much, bringing the home life or the business life into your home personal life. I think it's just not knowing when to let go from the father, and a difficult decision of firing your father from the son. So if there was a period, and I think Bill Haney better be careful with this because he's brought in some different eyes, but at some point you got to hand over the keys. He'll bring in different eyes, but he still want to be the driver. So that's the situation to monitor, because I do think father-son duos, I even think mentor and pupil, like, what you see with Tank and Calvin Davis. I think there's a shelf life to it, and you got to be careful with it.
I want to get to that point too, but let me ask you this, and it's similar to what Tank and Calvin Ford have now. Do you ever think that let's take this through all sports. I always look at it as the Pat Riley effect. When Pat Riley came to the Knicks in the early 90s, this was going to be the turnaround that the Knicks needed. The problem was it was good for a few years. And then the hard practice to the point where Patrick Ewing finally said, I can't do this. I can't do this every single day. Okay. But Pat Riley insisted every day we're going to work this hard, because if we're not getting better, we're getting worse. Right. Is there a point, and I'm taking Calvin Ford as this example, where they push to the point where they're like, hey, I'm done. I've done enough. I need something new. Do you ever get that feel?
Unfortunately, I think it'll come from the Tank side before it comes from the Calvin side. I don't know why I always call him Calvin Davis, but Calvin Ford, I think Calvin, I don't want to say he's along for the ride, man. When you take a kid who you knew was a troubled kid and, you took him off the streets and you made him a world champion, of course you want to be around for the farewell tour and the victory laps. I just see Tank a little distant. There were some things he did before the Lamont Roach fight. There was a video that got put out, and you could see Calvin was kind of bracing for a hug, and Tank walks by him. And there was another part where I think before the fight started, and I think the guy is 6'4", they call him, and Tank pulls his jacket up and talks to him. And you can see Calvin was a little uneasy, like Tank's almost acting like, what is he doing here type deal. So I think Tank would probably part ways before Calvin. But think about a guy who became an all-time great, very successful, who left his father very early, Roy Jones Jr. His father took him far, amateur, and Roy said, I can't work with him. I can't be that guy. He went and got Alton Murchison. No discredit to his father, but even Floyd Mayweather Jr. at some point left Floyd Sr., went with his Uncle Roger, ended up reuniting with Floyd. So I just think there's a shelf life for it. And I think guys like Calvin and some of these mentor-like figures, they're in the same boat as a father figure. I think one of the more successful ones in terms of mentor and pupil is probably Virgil and Andre Ward.
Right.
Virgil Hunter and Andre Ward. So there's a shelf life to it. A lot of fighters I'm kind of looking at, got to be weary of it. Recently fought Tim Tszyu. A lot of people were very critical of Joey Spencer's dad being in the corner and doing an atrocious job. Spencer was arguing back and forth with him. There's a shelf life, man. You just have to come to terms with separating business from personal.
A couple more things before we wrap up there, Percy. Two things. Number one, and this is a little, well, it's not off topic, but Floyd Mayweather Sr. and Roger, you were around them. What do you think was better for Floyd?
I think at the time he had them, both of them. I think during the time when he was Pretty Boy Floyd and Floyd Sr. had him as a kind of aggressive catch and shoot fighter, that was what he needed. Probably more shell defensive minded, but Floyd was aggressive. I think when the hand issues came and he parted ways with Big Floyd and became Money Mayweather, he had to fight a certain way. People called it boring, which was weird because he was more aggressive with Floyd Sr., who was more of a boxer as a fighter, and he was less aggressive with Roger, who was a damn killer as a fighter. But sometimes you teach the opposite thing. So when he had the hand injuries, what he was doing under Roger was great. I think bringing Big Floyd back, if nothing else, from a PR standpoint, was a great look, given the blow up they had on 24/7 and things like that. And by then, he was made. He was who he was going to be. But I think during the periods he had him, it probably was a little bit of both. Both of them served their purpose. I don't know if you recall, but I forgot what fight it was. He was starting to look between the ropes and get advice from his dad towards the end with Roger anyway. So that almost was fitting to bring him back. I'm just glad he kept it in the family. Floyd Jr. is one of the guys who I didn't think it was necessary. You have two uncles and a dad that can train their ass off. I was glad he never took it outside the family.
And that was good. I always thought that was really good that he brought his dad back. That was like you said, whether it was it was a good ending to that story.
Absolutely.
As it was a little bit of a controversy with Floyd Mayweather nowadays, but boy, I don't know what's going on.
A lot going on. A lot going on.
Ooh, yikes. But one of the last things I wanted to do before we wrapped up here, last time we spoke, your guy that you're really high on, Shakur Stevenson. Okay. Tank was getting ready to fight Lamont Roach. And we all thought that Lamont Roach was going to get blown away and Tank was the guy who was going to come through. Let me tell you, if no one has told you this, I'm going to tell you now. If Shakur Stevenson was in the ring instead of Lamont Roach, he beats the brakes off of Tank then. I think we saw a chink in the armor there that he does not like to be outboxed. And if he's going backward, it is not a good fight for Tank Davis. What do you think of that fight? And are you still leaning now that Shakur Stevenson is the guy now to really at 130?
Yeah, I've said for a long time Shakur beats them all. I stand by that. A lot of people, for whatever reason, felt like the guy that was going to dethrone Tank was going to be this power puncher. And I can understand the Isak Cruz kind of made you think like pressure and, two-fisted machine. I just always heard sparring stories that Tank can be frustrated. And I don't know a fighter who understands distance better than Shakur, and that's frustrating as hell. To try to punch somebody in range and not be able to hit him is frustrating. And I've always seen Shakur Stevenson just frustrating Tank to defeat. Lamont Roach did everything right. Lamont Roach couldn't have done anything more or less or whatever. He should have got credit with the knockdown in the 9th, and he wins on the scorecards. But, look like he'll get a rematch out of it.
Yeah.
And implement the same things and maybe get his hand raised or another draw, a close fight. Anything but get knocked out, I guess, would be considered a win. But Shakur Stevenson, to me, is the cream of the crop. He's the top dog, only because, and this is a Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather thing, Shakur doesn't care if you're booing. Shakur doesn't care if you're walking out and leaving. He's going to fight his fight. I saw Tank at times get frustrated that he wasn't landing his fastball. And, that even after in the post fight, he's like, why y'all booing me? Shakur don't care.
Yeah. And when I saw that, this is a very Tank coming back in this fight against Lamont Roach is going to be very telling. He's either going to blow him out and get back on the track that he was at, or this could be the start of something like the Adrian Broner type of, you lose one that you shouldn't have lost. Because the reality is he lost that fight. There's the knockdown. First of all, he should have been disqualified when Calvin went to wipe his face. That's automatic disqualification. I don't know what Steve was doing in that fight. He lost control of that fight. But
one of his worst before, and I'm a huge Steve Willis guy. That
was I am too.
Terrible night for him.
Oh, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I think he kind of went. I have seen him at a bunch of other fights lately, but Harvey Doc probably should have got the call there. He's a bigger guy, you know, but he didn't. It's where we're at. He should have lost, but that's where we're at now. And it looks like Shakur Stevens, you were right on that one. And I want to see where he goes from here. I do want to see Shakur. I think he would have beaten Kid Austin pretty handily. I wanted to see him fight Kid Austin. It didn't happen. So now he's back in the shuffle again and trying to get a good fight. And I don't know where else he can go right now unless he moves up. I mean, he's got to move up at some point.
Looks like the Zepeda fight's going to be hard to make. I really want to see the Schofield fight. I didn't even think Floyd Schofield would be very competitive, just for whatever reason. I want to see that fight. I always say, man, the actions usually follow the words. Tank's starting to sound and be a nicer guy. You know, he didn't go in on Lamont Roach because his mom was at the press conference, and he's saying, you know, he wants to do certain things to become a nicer public image for his daughters. The actions usually follow the words. He's saying all the words. He's saying retirement. He's saying all these things. You're starting to see it in the performances a little bit, especially in the Lamont Roach fight, where, not saying he wasn't trying to hurt Lamont Roach, but he just seemed like a different guy. And he's told us, he said it, and, you know, and he's saying the quiet part out loud. You pay attention. Shakur still sounds like a hungry guy with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I don't hear that from Tank anymore. Actually, downplaying and any name. Oh, what has he done in the sport? What has he done to deserve the fight? So it just sounds like, to me, a guy with 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
I know, and I hope he's taking care of his money financially, that he can kind of go around, because he seemed like the guy mentality could go the other way and it could get bad for him. So hopefully, financially, he's set somewhere where someone's watching his money and he can calmly go off into the sunset if he chooses to.
Absolutely.
Well, Big P, again, I enjoy this as always here. Where can people reach out to you? Where can I find you?
www.therealvipcrew.com is the website. The VIP Crew YouTube page is just go to YouTube, the VIP Crew. We have a very diverse setting of interviews, man. I promise you, if you go to our website, we have a wall of fame. You will find something you like.
Oh, that's great. I will put that out there in the description below. Big P, as always, thanks for coming on.
There you go, brother. Always a pleasure, my man. Thank you.
All right, brother.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.